Hi everybody. In this segment we will summarize the two risk-sharing contracts we talked about. We will just introduce an option contract and summarize the entire lesson. So let's talk about risk-sharing contract. The setup that we talked about throughout was a single supplier selling to a single retailer, and the retailer is facing an uncertain demand. So with wholesale price contract, the supplier sells and the retailer buys at the wholesale price that the supplier has set. The retailer in this case bears all the risk. The risk here is overage risk, order too many. Of course, it also doesn't want to have the risk of order too little, but the supplier bears no risks of overage. The retailer hedges its bets in this case and orders a small amount, because most of the risk is when it orders too many. In a buyback contract, the supplier sells at a wholesale price, but the supplier takes on some of the overage risks because it has to buy back some of the unsold item, so the retailer will order more since its risk is reduced. In a revenue sharing contract, the supplier sells at a deep discount. The supplier, however, shares in the retail revenue, so the retailer orders more since, again, its risk is being reduced. Now, in any specific case, it is not guaranteed actually that both sides will win. There are other factors that go into the contract negotiation. In most cases, the contract negotiation will favor the stronger party. So a stronger party, whether it's Walmart as a retailer or a very large manufacturer selling to a very small retailer, power in the relationship have to be taken into account. So why are we introducing it as a win-win contract? Because it is important to realize that there's a range of options where the profits of the channel as a whole are maximized. So the whole idea is that buyer and seller should negotiate within this range that allow both parties to win. So the idea is, first of all, get to the point that the pie is biggest and then divide the pie. Because you can get into a situation where both sides will actually win. There's simply more profit to go around if negotiating within this range. And that's the insight here, that you have to go to a place where both sides have the potential to make more money. Now, if one side makes more or less, it's a secondary issue. But the channel makes more money, so there's more money to go around, and there's the potential of both parties to make more money and have it as a real win-win situation. Now, let's just mention another contract that's very common in the electronics business, and this is an option contract. In this case, the retailer, or in this case the OEM actually, before it knows what the demand will be like for a new gizmo, a new computer, a new phone, a new camera, something, it doesn't know how much it will need. So it can be a lot, it can be little. So what it does, it buys option from the supplier. Usually it can be a contract supplier. So in case of Apple, for example, it may be Foxconn or Flextronics. And the retailer simply buys call option at the supplier. The supplier then, let's assume that the supplier makes this number of items, makes Q items. At this point, after the sales have been revealed during the selling season, each option can be exercised at a unit price of E. So as demand materializes, the retailer, in this case the OEM, takes delivery at an additional payment of E. So originally, think about it, the supplier makes Q items, but the retailer doesn't buy them. In order to buy them, it has to pay W for the supplier to make all the Q items, and then if the demand is less than Q, it buys only a smaller number but pays an extra E, exercise price, for each one of them. In any case, the OEM cannot buy more than Q items from the supplier because the supplier bought only Q call option for capacity. So the supplier has capacity to make only Q. The supplier keeps the capacity, either takes the part, build it, or just keeps the capacity, it doesn't matter. But the retailer pays Q for everything, and then it pays an extra E, exercise price, for those that it actually buys, but it cannot buy more than Q. You can go through the math, which is very similar to what we did before, and you'll get relationship between the option price and the exercise price. So, for example, if the option price is W, the exercise will be 80. And different option price will give you different exercise price. And by the way, if the option price is 0, this will be the situation that we had before. So you have to buy 200 to get each one of them. You don't get any, there's no issue of option. It's just you order a certain amount, and the exercise price becomes the wholesale price. So let's summarize what we have here. As we said, in this case, option wholesale price of 25 will give exercise price of 81. And you can plot out all the expected profits, and you will have that everything will be centered on 900, just as expected. We're not going to go through all the calculations here, but they're very similar to what we did with the buyback and with the revenue sharing. Let's summarize this lesson. So, originally we talked about wholesale contracts, and in wholesale contracts there's too much risk and not enough expected reward for the retailer. So the retailer doesn't order much. It wants to cover its risk, and it doesn't want to take on extra risk because there's not enough reward in this. Now, to make the retailer order more and increase the entire channel's profit, the supplier has to take on part of the risk. And risk-sharing mechanisms are varied, and there are many risk-sharing mechanisms. We talked about buyback, revenue sharing, and mentioned option contract, but there are many others. Other mechanisms include what's called quantity flexibility contract, which is similar to buyback, but the supplier offers a refund only on a portion of the unsold unit, not on all of them. Another type of contract is what's called sale rebate. The supplier gives a rebate to the retailer only on a number of unsold units above a certain threshold, so not for everything. All kind of other mechanisms. Each mechanism can coordinate the channel with various allocation of profit between the retailer and the supplier. That's important. The insight here is not that it is by necessity that everybody makes more money. Clearly, the party with more power in the channel can make more money, but the important thing is that both parties should negotiate in the region where the potential for the maximum expected profit is the highest for the channel. So we want to get the pie as high, as big as we can, and then worry about dividing it, because it gives the potential for everybody to make the maximum amount of money. Let me stop here, and with this, thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you soon again.